There is one sentence in The Old Man and the Sea that may contain more wisdom than an entire library of poker strategy books. As Santiago continues drifting farther into the ocean than any other fisherman dared to go, he quietly says something extraordinary. It is better to be lucky, but I would rather be exact. Read those words again. Not lucky. Exact. Hemingway understood something that modern decision science would only prove decades later. Luck determines individual outcomes. Precision determines lifetime outcomes. That distinction is the foundation of every elite poker career. Walk into any casino and ask players why they busted. Most answers sound familiar. I lost a flip. He hit his two-outer. My aces got cracked. I couldn't win an all-in. Notice the common pattern. Every explanation lives outside the player's control. Now sit beside someone who has spent 15 years consistently reaching final tables. You'll hear something completely different. My river sizing was too large against that population. I opened too aggressively after the table dynamic shifted. My emotional recovery after the cooler took longer than usual. My decision quality declined during level 12 because I stopped eating. The average player reviews outcomes. The professional reviews precision. That single difference compounds for decades. Imagine two architects building skyscrapers. One celebrates every building that remains standing. The other measures every millimeter before laying the first beam. Years later, which architect would you trust? Poker is no different. Champions are obsessed with precision long before they become obsessed with results. There is a principle in aviation that has saved countless lives. Pilots don't wait for engines to fail before inspecting them. They build systems that make failure increasingly unlikely. Every checklist, every instrument, every routine exists for one purpose: to eliminate unnecessary randomness. Elite poker players think exactly the same way. Before every tournament, they prepare their minds, they prepare their bodies, they prepare their nutrition, they prepare their sleep, they prepare their emotional state, they prepare their review process before the first card is even dealt. To outsiders, these habits appear insignificant. Professionals know they are cumulative. James Clear popularized the idea that tiny habits create extraordinary transformations. Poker proves it every single day. Missing 1 hour of sleep seems harmless. Skipping one review session seems harmless. Ignoring one emotional leak seems harmless. Making one impatient river call seems harmless. Individually, almost invisible. Collectively, career-defining. This is exactly how Santiago survives the impossible. Not through one heroic action, through thousands of disciplined ones. Every adjustment of the line, every movement of the boat, every decision to conserve energy, every observation of the current, every moment of patience. Nothing dramatic, everything essential. Now think about the players everyone calls naturally gifted. Look closely enough and you'll usually discover something else. Systems. Invisible systems repeated so consistently, they eventually look like talent. People see Phil Ivey making impossible folds. They don't see the millions of previous observations that made those folds possible. People admire Fedor Holz's calmness. They don't see the years spent training emotional regulation before enormous prize pools ever existed. People watch Eric Seidel quietly reaching final tables decade after decade. They rarely notice the extraordinary consistency of his routines. Greatness rarely announces itself. It accumulates silently. This leads to another profound lesson hidden inside Hemingway's masterpiece. The ocean never changes its rules to reward effort. Poker doesn't either. The sea doesn't care how badly Santiago wants the fish. The deck doesn't care how many hours you've studied. Variance has no memory. Probability has no emotions. The universe doesn't negotiate. At first, that sounds cruel, but it's actually liberating. Because once you stop expecting reality to reward effort immediately, you become free to focus on the only thing that truly compounds: mastery. Mastery doesn't ask for guarantees. It asks for repetition. It asks for honesty. It asks for patience. It asks for precision. This is why professionals seem emotionally stable, while everyone else rides a roller coaster. Their confidence isn't built on recent results. It's built on accumulated evidence. Evidence that they have prepared. evidence that they have adapted, evidence that they have survived storms before, evidence that their process continues producing high-quality decisions regardless of temporary outcomes. Eventually, something remarkable happens. Winning stops creating arrogance. Losing stops creating despair. Both become information. Nothing more. Nothing less. Imagine reaching that level. Imagine sitting at a final table where millions of dollars are at stake, and realizing your heartbeat remains steady. Not because the pressure disappeared, because your preparation became greater than the pressure. That is what Santiago ultimately teaches. The fish was never the destination. The man he became while pursuing it was. And perhaps that is the greatest secret in poker. The trophy is only temporary. The player you build while chasing it stays with you forever. And Hemingway saves one final revelation for the journey home. A lesson so powerful that once understood, you'll never measure success at a poker table the same way again. Siga como parte sete de forma brilhante. When Santiago finally reaches the shore, the people don't see what he sees. They see a skeleton. A magnificent skeleton, but still a skeleton. The flesh is gone. The prize is gone. The visible victory has disappeared, and that's exactly where Hemingway delivers the most profound lesson in the entire novel. The world judges outcomes. Masters judge journeys. Think about poker for a moment. A player wins $1 million tournament. Everyone calls him a genius. Another player makes every mathematically correct decision for 12 straight hours. Gets all the money in as a 92% favorite 3 different times. Loses every one of them. Busts before the money. The world calls him unlucky. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Only one of those 2 players is guaranteed to become stronger tomorrow. Can you guess which one? There is an old principle in Japanese craftsmanship known as shokunin. A true craftsman never measures success by applause. He measures success by the perfection of the craft itself. The audience may never notice the difference between an excellent piece of work and a masterpiece. The craftsman notices, every single time. Elite poker players develop exactly the same mindset. They stop asking, "Did I win?" Instead they ask, "Was today's decision worthy of the player I'm trying to become?" That subtle shift changes everything. Because suddenly, every tournament becomes valuable. Winning teaches confidence. Losing teaches precision. Bad beats teach emotional regulation. Long stretches of folding teach patience. Aggressive opponents teach adaptability. Weak opponents teach discipline. Every table becomes a university. Every player becomes a professor. Even the ones who beat you. Especially the ones who beat you. This is something Santiago understands instinctively. He respects the marlin. He respects the sharks. He respects the sea. He never wastes energy hating any of them. Why? Because hatred blinds observation, respect sharpens it. Now imagine bringing that philosophy into poker. Instead of saying, "I hate that player," you begin asking, "What does he understand that I don't?" Instead of saying, "He's just lucky," you ask, "What patterns does he recognize before I do?" Instead of saying, "I always lose to this type of opponent," you ask, "What system keeps producing this result?" Notice how every question immediately transfers power back to you. Complaints create victims. Questions create professionals. There is another extraordinary lesson hidden inside Hemingway's writing. Throughout the novel, Santiago is completely alone. No coach, no rail, no audience, no social media, no validation. Just him and his decisions. That is exactly what makes poker one of the purest performance disciplines ever created. When the cards are in the air, nobody can think for you. Nobody can rescue you. Nobody can lend you emotional control. Nobody can borrow you confidence. Every decision reveals the architecture of your own mind. This is why poker becomes such an honest mirror. Business can hide incompetence for years. Life can hide weak habits behind excuses. Poker rarely allows that luxury. Sooner or later, your habits become visible. Your emotional patterns become expensive. Your discipline becomes measurable. Your thinking becomes your bankroll. And perhaps that's why so many people quit poker. Not because it's difficult, because it refuses to lie. It reveals exactly who you become under uncertainty. Santiago never tries to escape that truth. He embraces it. The ocean exposes him. The fish exposes him. The sharks expose him. But none of them define him. His response defines him. That may be the greatest lesson every serious poker player must eventually learn. Your opponents do not define you. Variance does not define you. One tournament does not define you. Even one incredible victory does not define you. Only your repeated response to uncertainty does. Psychologists refer to this as identity reinforcement. Every repeated action strengthens the person you believe yourself to be. Every disciplined fold strengthens discipline. Every patient decision strengthens patience. Every honest review strengthens humility. Every emotionally controlled response strengthens resilience. Slowly, almost invisibly, you stop acting like a professional. You become one. And then something extraordinary begins to happen. The confidence you've been chasing for years finally arrives. Not because your bankroll exploded, not because you won a bracelet, not because other players started respecting you, but because for the first time, you completely trust the person sitting behind your own chips. That kind of confidence cannot be bought. It cannot be faked. It cannot be downloaded from a solver. It must be earned. Decision after decision, after tournament, after storm. And that is exactly why Hemingway's masterpiece has survived for generations. It was never really about an old fisherman. It was always about us. About every human being who chooses to pursue something so meaningful. That failure itself becomes part of the victory. And in the final chapter of this journey, you'll discover why the greatest prize in poker has never been the money. It has always been the person the game quietly transforms you into while everyone else is watching only the cards. When Santiago falls asleep at the end of The Old Man and the Sea, something extraordinary happens. The villagers gather around the boat. They don't see the giant marlin alive. They don't witness the battle. They don't feel the pain in his bleeding hands. They don't experience the 84 empty days. They arrive only after everything is over. All they see is the skeleton. And yet, every experienced fisherman immediately understands something profound. No ordinary man could have brought that skeleton back. The evidence of greatness remained. Even after success itself had disappeared. Think about that for a moment. The fish is gone. The meat is gone. The reward is gone. But the proof remains. Poker works exactly the same way. Years from now, nobody will remember the exact board that won you a tournament. Nobody will remember whether your ace-king held against queens. Nobody will remember the incredible hero call you made on day 2. Even your largest score will eventually become another number buried inside a database. But something else remains. The person those tournaments quietly built. That is the real prize. The poker community spends enormous amounts of time chasing better cards, better strategies, better software, better ranges, better bluffs. Very few people stop to ask the question Hemingway wanted every reader to ask. Who are you becoming while chasing all of this? Because every tournament changes you. Every difficult fold changes you. Every bad beat changes you. Every disciplined decision changes you. Every honest review changes you. The transformation is so gradual that most players never notice it happening. One day, you realize you no longer panic after losing a flip. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself with impossible hero calls. You no longer chase losses. You no longer celebrate winning one tournament as if you've solved poker forever. Your confidence becomes quieter. Your emotions become smaller. Your patience becomes deeper. Your decisions become simpler, cleaner, calmer. That is mastery. Not because you know everything, because you've learned how little must disturb your thinking. There is an old saying among master craftsmen, the masterpiece is never the object. The masterpiece is the craftsman who created it. Read that again. The masterpiece is the craftsman, not the object. Suddenly, everything we've discussed throughout this journey comes together. The ocean was uncertainty. The marlin was excellence. The sharks were variance. The boat was your discipline. The fishing line was your decision-making process. Your bleeding hands were the sacrifices nobody else ever sees. And Santiago was every serious poker player who has ever sat alone at a table wondering if all the effort would someday be worth it. The answer Hemingway gives is beautiful, yes, but perhaps not in the way you expected, because the greatest reward is not becoming someone who wins every tournament. That person doesn't exist. The greatest reward is becoming someone who never allows uncertainty to corrupt their character. Someone whose discipline survives disappointment. Someone whose humility survives success. Someone whose patience survives frustration. Someone whose curiosity survives failure. Someone who can lose everything, except the quality of the next decision. That player becomes extraordinarily difficult to defeat. Not because variance disappears, because identity becomes stronger than variance. This is exactly why Collection 2 was created. Not to teach you another preflop chart, not another bluffing frequency, not another solver output that changes 6 months from now. We built it to help serious players construct something much more valuable. A complete operating system for decision-making. Inside you'll find the mental frameworks, psychological protocols, advanced strategic models, practical exercises, and performance systems that allow elite players to remain calm while everyone else collapses under pressure. These aren't isolated poker tricks. They're principles you can carry into every tournament, every difficult decision, and every challenge far beyond the poker table. If this journey through the old man and the sea changed the way you think about poker, imagine what happens when you spend weeks building the complete framework behind it. You'll find Collection 2 in the pinned comment below. Not because you need more information, because the player you're capable of becoming deserves better architecture. And if this video gave you even one idea that will stay with you for the rest of your poker career, subscribe to Mind of a Grinder. Because this channel has never been about teaching poker. Poker is simply our laboratory. Our real mission has always been much bigger. To build minds that remain calm when everyone else panics. To build decision makers instead of gamblers. To create players who are remembered not because they won once, but because they became impossible to break. Hemingway never wrote a poker book. Yet somehow, he explained poker better than most poker books ever will. Because in the end, the greatest hand you'll ever play will never be the one you're holding. It will be the one your mind chooses to play when everything around you is falling apart. And when that day comes, you won't need luck to recognize it. You'll already know exactly who you have become. And that is a victory no river card can ever take away. Spades.